Good morning. I'm Ernie Kessler. Most of you know that, but some of you I know by face and I don't know by name, and it's probably the same with you. But 2 weeks ago, Pastor Kate asked me to, at the end of the worship service, would I consider speaking to the congregation about our Building Connections capital campaign. My quick response to her was, I don't think I'm the right person for that. Pastor Kate didn't let me get away with it. She asked why. I said, I'm too old. She countered by saying, the other speakers have been at Good Shepherd a relatively short time. It would be good to hear from someone who has been at Good Shepherd a long time. Think about it and let's talk about it in a few days. So I thought about it before talking to Pastor Kate. What could I possibly say to you that would convince you to enthusiastically participate in the Building Connections capital campaign? Pastor Kate and I talked, and you can see I'm here today. In the next few minutes, I'll try to tell you how my understanding of and appreciation for the Building Connections capital campaign evolved during the past 2 months. For me, the Building Connections campaign went from a minor skepticism to understanding and acceptance, and finally to downright enthusiasm. In the beginning, the name, Building Connections, was a small stumbling block. I had heard rumors for a few years now that we were going to refurbish the Shepherd's Hall. I assumed we were finally getting around to that. So why not just call it a facelift or spruce up campaign? So when you look at what is being asked of us here, you begin to understand that I had tunnel vision, that there was really more going on here than just refurbishing the Shepherd's Hall. First thing I learned was that it included the Metro DC Synod's goal of growing by 3,000 members during the next 3 years, and Good Shepherd boldly setting the goal of 10% of that, 300 new members in the next 3 years. I am concerned about declining church membership, as which I'm sure you folks are too. So I call this the growth part of the capital campaign, and I can support that. Another part of the capital campaign was adding new staff to support the expected growth and strengthen the connections that we already have within our church. There's a little bit of money that goes addition to the Metro DC Synod to help them reach their 3,000 new member goal. Well, the Kessler family has benefited personally from Good Shepherd connections over a long time. So it's easy for me to support this strengthening of the connections part of the capital campaign. The major part of the Building Connections campaign, though, is directed to improving our property. And I can relate to that part because we happen to be here for 3 of the 4 major building projects that have occurred here. We came in August of 1969 and joined Good Shepherd a few months later. If you do the math, that's 48 years. That's a long time. We were warmly welcomed when we first came here, and I'm pleased to say that a few of those people who welcomed us are sitting in our congregation today. Alice Johnson, Don and Betty Fick, Al Zanner, Carolyn Humerkaus. I'm sure I've missed a few people, but Vonnie Bennett, if she's here, well, that was their way of connecting to us when we first came here. And we'll never forget that. You know, we were the connectees and they were the connectors. The church was small. There was a gravel parking lot, but it was a good place to come and a way to connect. Fast forward from 1969 to 1978. Good Shepherd had grown. We built a new sanctuary. It's now called the Shepherd's Hall. Hallmark of that worship space was the stained glass window. It was, and it still is, something that says something about Good Shepherd. Fast forward again to 1988. Good Shepherd needed education space. We built a 2-story education building. The hallmark of that was that it allowed us to open a preschool, which became an advertising way for our church and also served the community. fast forward one more time to Christmas 2008. That's 9 years ago. That's the first time we worshiped in this building. We had grown again. So what did we do? We looked at the original building. It was in bad need of repair. We replaced it with this octagon building, and it's been our sanctuary for the last 9 years. Now, if we do a little math, 2018, we're almost there. 2018 minus 1978, that's 40 years. 2018 minus 1988, that's 30 years. Well, if you lived in the same house for 30 or 40 years as we have, you know that improvements must be made if you want comfortable, efficient living space. And that's what we're talking about here. So what are the renovation plans? All of you should have gotten something like this during this past week. I encourage you to read this. In general, the renovation plans are laid out. I'll just say a few words: repaving the parking lot, in the education wing, reconfiguring some of the rooms so that they better meet the way we use them today, more efficient lighting and heating in the Shepherd's Hall, improved lighting, sound, and flooring, new furniture in the Shepherd's Hall and in the education classroom. There's more details in here, so please read this. In closing, I want to return to the connection part of the capital campaign. In 48 years, our family has been blessed very much by those connections, and they were unique connections, things like baptisms, First Communion, confirmations, weddings, and then for us, a repeat of that with some of our grandkids, and even with a great-grandson. Many of you have had those same personal, unique connections with this church. And then there's the ordinary connections, Sunday after Sunday and week after week. It's hard to imagine our family without the Good Shepherd connection. I want to share just a few words from a letter that Pastor Dave sent out at the very beginning of this month. I'm assuming that you got it. Francis and I are very excited about the Building Connections Capital Campaign. We are convinced that this effort can take Good Shepherd Lutheran Church to the next level and make a difference in our lives, in the lives of present and future members, and in the mission of our synod. Later on, he goes, we want you to know that our family will fully participate and will plan to make ongoing generous gifts to the campaign throughout the next 3 years. This is in addition to our annual giving for the ongoing ministries of Good Shepherd. Well, with a deep sense of gratitude for all that this congregation has meant to Brenda and I, we make that same commitment to the Building Connections campaign and to the ongoing ministries of this church. And I hope that you will also make a similar connection. Thanks for listening.